Thank you, everyone. Please kindly confirm that you can hear me loud and clear.
Yes, sir.
Yes, I can hear you.
Yeah, I can hear you loud and clear. Very much loud and clear.
Yeah,
All right, thank you.
I can also
Yeah,
hear you on
thank
my
you.
own side.
So I can hear you here.
All right, thank you very much, everyone. We can also put it in the comment section where we are joining us from, our names and where we're joining us from. Today is top professionals in the field of health and safety to discuss with us on various topics, and we have delivered this training continuously for 60 complete series, meaning that we have done this kind of event 60 times. This is the 60th time, and we are glad that we have gone this far. We started during the COVID era in 2020 when we need to sensitize people about COVID, where we need to create the awareness about people's protecting their lives and ensuring that they comply with the regulatory requirement before they step out of their homes, and to spread the awareness about COVID. And we also use the opportunity to start sensitizing people about health and safety generally. And gradually we moved and developed to where we are now. And we are very glad that we are at this stage. And this has been solely sponsored by Cordar Safety Consults, an organization set up for various health and safety solutions and to provide HSC trainings and general health and safety consultancy. Thank you so much for being here today, for celebrating with us. We really appreciate you. It's been a long journey so far, but we are happy that we are here today. So to celebrate this, we'll be talking about ISO 45001. Actually, I think there's a mistake here, so sorry for that. What we are actually focusing on is what we call ISO 19011. Yes, we pick some slides from our material in order to be able to deliver this. In which one of the content, please, we have made a couple of persons admins, so that you please help us to mute those that I think I can still make more people admins. Mr. Kolawole, please help us. For anyone who is not muted, you can please help us to mute them. Yes, I also added my Oga, Mr. Rofela, as a co-admin also. I can still meet so many of us here, but I think just a few will be better. You are all my Ogas here. So now, as I was saying, we picked this from one of our sessions, our content, just few slides from our course content on ISO 45001, where we talk extensively on ISO 19001, which is very important as an auditor, because this particular aspect, this particular guideline specifically talks about the guidelines for auditing management system, meaning that as an auditor itself, apart from the fact that you want to audit 9001, or you want to audit 45001, or you want to audit 40,001, or you want to audit 50,001, which is energy management system, or you want to audit food safety management system, whatever you want to audit, you need to follow a guideline also. You need to also make sure that you conform to that guideline, which is also ISO 19001, which is the guideline on auditing management system. And it includes various principles, guidelines for managing an audit program and how to successfully conduct an audit as a lead auditor. So that is the focus on what you'll be talking about today. We'll just give us a summary of it also. It's not a deep, detailed discussion, because we have just a few hours to run this with us. And this particular material is being owned by Quality and Management System Auditor Institute, that is QMSAI. Yes, QMSAI is a certification body, is an organization that is registered as a certification body. As we go on in the discussion, we will talk more about it. Please let us stay muted when we join the class. As we go on in the discussion, we'll talk about it. Please, someone is, or am I the one hearing that noise? Someone is unmuted. So as we go on in the discussion, we'll talk about QMSAI. Yes, I know we have different people from different countries. Please let us stay muted at all time, please, and let us choose our cameras. And we know we have different people from different parts of the world who has joined us today as they used to do. And that also reminds me of building local content. We call it local, not because of the way people describe something as local. Local in the terms that it belongs to us. If in the United States, for example, they have their own local content. They have their own organizations that they build, they develop, and they also patronize it. So we are going to talk more about this while we go on in the course, because QMSAI has come to create that liberation when it comes to ISO certification that we need to develop, that we need to depend on internet, we need to depend on foreign organizations to get certified, while it is we ourselves who train ourselves here, but we need to depend on them. We depend so much on getting products, on getting even our toothpick, everything, we are importing them. Even our knowledge base, we have so many organizations. We have the likes of ISPON, for example. I think that's another discussion for another day. But QMSAI is also one of them that has been established in Africa in order to build a content where we can also certify ourselves and also become internationally recognized. And this material that we are using today is also belongs to them. It's a very robust material. And I can tell you that they started a few years ago, just I think 2 or 3 years ago, and I did my ISO 9001, 45001, and the other one, 14001, many years ago. So they were not in existence. If they were in existence, then I would have done with them. And what I realized is that even when I did all my 3 ISOs, I think I did 2 with IACA, for example, and I did 1 with PDCA. I never came across anything that is called ISO 19001. I know as 9001 came in 2018, came in 2018, which came into existence in order to create a guideline. And there are so many things that I didn't also understand. I didn't understand that apart from the major standards that are being used for auditing, there are other guideline standards that are also available. I didn't know that there, apart from as a certification body, if an organization wants to get accredited, for example, if an organization wants to get certified, for example, they need to go to a certification body. For example, let's say SGS, for example. I never knew that even SGS needs to conform to a particular standard as 2021 in order for them to be able to carry out certification. All these I'm just getting to know them after I came in contact with QMSAI because of the robust content. So we are taking part of their material in order to create this enlightenment section for our series 60 of all our webinar sessions that we've done so far since 2020. So we'll be talking majorly about these guidelines and managing an audit program specifically. Please let us stay muted at all time. So we might not go through all the content of this particular chapter. We have picked some part that we just discussed with us. So we're talking about auditing program information. We're talking about the process flow for auditing using the PDCA cycle, establishing audit program objectives, determining and evaluating audit program risk and opportunities. We're talking about how to improve an audit program. We are supposed to talk about all these things, but along the line, we're able to take some away because it was so much and we won't finish it in 2 hours. And we have only less than 2 hours to actually have this wonderful enlightenment section. So whatever we can put together is still part of it. So how to improve the audit program, establishing the audit program, defining what we call objectives when it comes to auditing now. Now, remember that we are not talking about ISO 45001. We're talking about as an auditor who want to carry out audit, you need to also have your own audit plan. You need to also have your own audit objective. What do you want to achieve from the audit that you want to do? Not what you want to achieve from the ISO 5001 that the company wants to do. Now we're talking about you as an auditor, as an organization that is auditing, as a lead auditor who is championing an audit, or even as an internal auditor that want to carry out an audit. You also need to plan for your audit. and your planning for your audit should be in conformance with ISO 19011, which is what we are dissecting today. So defining the scope, defining the criteria of the audit, selecting and determining audit method, selecting audit team members, assigning responsibility for an individual audit to the audit team leader, managing audit programs, results, monitoring audit program, and factors that lead to modification for audit program. Like I said, we might not talk extensively about everything, but we are going to pick them as much as we can. So this is my face. My name is Wali Adegoke, and I'll be taking us through this wonderful section. Thank you. So the first thing is understanding audit program information. What are the information that you need? You want to start an audit. You are being informed that there's going to be an audit. As the auditor or as the auditing organization, the audit program should definitely include and identify resources that will enable you to carry out the audit, that will enable you to successfully and effectively and efficiently within the specific time frame. There's always a specific time frame for every form of audit. So, and all those information that you need before you start the audit program yourself, you need to have an objective for the audit program. Now, the objective is not the objective of the company that you want to audit, maybe based on ISO 9001 or ISO 45001. That's another thing entirely. Now, as the auditing organization, you need to have the objective of the audit program. What do you want to help the organization to do? You want to able to improve in their standard. You need to have the risks and opportunities that are associated with the audit program, which includes, for example, you are going to mobilize your workers or your auditors from one point to another. That should be, you need to address the risk. The organization that they are going to audit, they also have their hazards and the risks that they pose. So you need to understand the risks and opportunities that are associated with that particular audit that you want to do. Now you are concerned about your team. Now you're concerned about the process of carrying out the audit. What are the possible challenges that they can encounter, and provide solutions to them before you go out for the audit. You need to understand the scope of each audit within the audit program. Please let us switch off our cameras. It's very important because we are live and your face might be the one showing instead of the slide. Yes, so thank you very much. So you need to understand the scope, the extent, boundaries, and locations of the audit within the audit program. The audit that you want to do, you need to understand the scope of the audit. What is the extent of the audit? What are they auditing? That will make you to plan effectively well on what you should do and what you are expected not to do, and those areas that you don't need to go out for. Most times, organizations audit all their processes, but sometimes organization can decide to audit a particular aspect of their process. An organization can decide that, okay, they want to audit their factory in Lagos. So even though if they have 1 million factories all over the world, because the scope of the audit is the location, Lagos, that's what they want to audit. Even in their process, an organization can say that, okay, they want to audit their process line, or they want to audit their waste management system based on ISO 14001, or they want to audit their effluent treatment plant, or they want to audit how they, based on environmental management system, how they release toxic substances, or the GHG, greenhouse gases. That's what we want to audit. Audit can be on a specific aim and objective. So you need to understand the scope of that audit to be able to plan your own audit program, so that you won't work outside this, so that you won't plan outside the scope of the audit. You need to be able to understand the schedule of the audit. How many, what's the duration of the audit? What is the frequency of the audit? All this will be part of what you should plan as an auditor using the guideline of ISO 9011. Audit types such as the interval of the audit, maybe it's internal audit or external audit. You need to be able to know the type of audit that you're going to do. You might be going there to support an organization to improve their system. So you will be going as a first-party audit. Yes, they can consult you as a consultant, come and help us to audit our system. Yes, you are part of the team. You are that is internal audit. And it might be a second-party audit. Maybe they want to audit their clients. Maybe they want to audit their vendors. They want to audit some other interested parties. And they're like, okay, come and help us to audit this thing. mostly vendors and subcontractors. So you need to know the type of the audit, and it can be external. You can be going there as an external body for ISO certificate, and it can be third-party audit. So you might be going there as an external person for ISO certification. And you need to understand the audit criteria. What are they auditing against? Most times, when it comes to ISO, because we're talking about ISO now, the criteria is always based on maybe ISO 45001, or ISO 14001, or ISO 9001. So depending on the audit criteria, we give you a guide on what to plan for. Because even though the clauses are the same and they have the same structure, there are some aspects that are different. For example, while 45001, we're talking about risk and opportunity, environmental management system will be talking about aspects and impact. So you need to understand the criteria they are carrying out their audit with. And it can also be some other standard. They might decide to say, okay, they want to do their audit. Maybe it's not even ISO audit, maybe a quality management audit, maybe Lean Sigma kind of auditing, or Lean and Six Sigma kind of audit, or any other kind of audit that they want to do, Scrum or anything. So you need to understand the audit criteria. What are they auditing against? And their audit criteria can also be, we'll still mention some audit criteria, it can also be based on regulatory requirements. It can also be that, okay, they want to ensure that they are complying with the Factory Act. So you are coming to audit based on that requirement. So the criteria for the audit is what they are auditing against. And the audit method to be employed. What method of the audit? Is it going to be virtual, online, offline? And how do you combine them together, depending on what you want to achieve for the audit? The documentation processes, because in the ISO standard, for example, there are some aspects that you definitely need to. There are some aspects that you definitely need to provide documented evidence. So you need to understand the method of audit that you want to deploy, and also the criteria for selecting your audit team, the extent of the audit, the type of audit that you're going to audit an office space now is different from the team that you're going to take to that kind of auditing environment. It will be different from auditing an organization. It will be different from their auditing and oil and gas process plants. Why? Because they are definitely different. You need some technical expertise that has to do with the process plant based on the scope of the audit. You need to understand the scope so that you know the kind of team you are taking to a particular audit. The size of the organization will also determine how you should select your team and how you should spread them across for the audit. So these are the things you need to look out for, and also relevant documented information, like I mentioned the other time. Some of this information may not be available until more detailed auditing plan is complete. We'll still talk about auditing plan later, which is part of auditing plan anyway. But so there are some things that you will not know until you've completed your auditing plan. That's when you now know that, okay, we need to do this, you need to do this. For example, let's say before you start the audit, for example, they said, okay, they want the audit to last for 3 days. Then after going and maybe you give them your a checklist, maybe for ISO 55001, you give them a checklist for them to create, to do a gap analysis, to know what they have and what they do not have. And after doing the gap analysis, and you go there physically to confirm that they have all these things, and you're not like, all the things that you say that you have, you don't have it all. This audit needs to extend like 2 weeks. Or maybe all these things that you say that you don't have, you have them. So we don't need to spend so much time. We can just spend little time. And also depending on the number of employees that they have. There is if you have 1 to 25 employees, there's a number of days that they can spend depending on your audit team. So these are what you need prior to carrying out an audit program, for you to understand the extent at which you want to go for the audit. The implementation of the audit program should be monitored and measured on ongoing basis. Just like you are trying to audit for ISO standard 45001, 9001, 40001, whatever it may be, that we'll talk about improvement and this thing. Same thing applies to the audit program itself. Those that are carrying out the audit as an organization, as an audit organization, for example, I was using an example of SGS. As an audit organization, for example, that go out to do third-party audit, you also need your own system that you're using to audit to should also be monitored and measured to be sure that you are auditing based on what you plan to do. And that forms the foundation of your auditing program. So moving forward, there's what we call the process flow for the auditing management system. For your auditing program, there's a process flow for the management, how you need to go for your audit. And that is where we'll be talking about now. We also use the principle of the plan, the do, the check, and the act. I think that is very common these days. You see it being used in almost every process because it's a process approach. Yes, so you use the planning, the doing, the plan, do, the check, and the acting. So the first thing when you are trying to carry out your audit program is to establish an audit program objective. What do you want to achieve from this objective? You want to help the organization to improve on their management system, or you want to help them to comply to a particular requirement, or you want to do so things. We'll also talk about that. Then from there, you now determine and evaluate the audit program risks and opportunities. After you've known the objective of the audit, you now look at, okay, what are the challenges we can face? What are the risks? What are the hazards that we can be exposed to while carrying out the audit? This is different from the risk that the workers or the organization is being exposed to while carrying out their specific type of audits, maybe 45001, or maybe the kind of requirement that they need, maybe customer requirement when carrying out ISO 9001, or the environmental impact when carrying out for 2001, or the HACCP, that is other analysis and critical control point, where carrying out food safety management system. Now we are talking about the audit program itself. You need to be able to determine and evaluate the possible risks and opportunities that is available. Like I made mention, the simplest one is mobilizing your workers from their various homes or where they will be meeting to where they want to carry out the audit. That is a very simple example. You need to audit that process. You need to have the program. Are they going to have, do they have a particular car that they will take to where they're going to do the audit, or they will move individually and meet there? What are the various risks that they are being exposed to? Then where they are going to audit, what are the residual risk or primary risks that are present that they can also be exposed to, and what do they need to ensure that they are safe while they are carrying out their audit? It should be part of your audit program. Then establishing audit boundaries, auditing program. After you put these two together, after you set your objective and you also understand the risks and opportunity that they might be exposed to, then you now establish your audit program. You have a list of what you want to do, the programs that you want to do. And after doing that, you implement. In the phase of implementing, there are so many sub-activities that is going on there, because implementing your audit means that you are now doing. You now want to carry out the audit. Why doing your audit? What are those things that you're actually doing practically? What are those things that you are actioning out while carrying out the audit? The first one, and that is very important, is to initiate the audit. Initiate at the initiation stage to start the audit. The meetings, first kind of meeting that you have with your auditees, and also preparing audit activities. What are those activities that is specific to the audit? What is the time for going for documentation, for checking the document that they present? What time will it be to go around the site, move around the site? You don't always say, show me this, show me that, show me this. While they are showing you, you should practically go outside and see for yourself with your eyes that what they've documented is what they are actually doing. So by the time you are planning your audit activities, all this will be put in place to ensure that the audit process goes on successfully. And then after doing that, then you conduct your audit activities, all those that you plan to do. Then preparing and distributing audit report. After going out, after checking for non-conformity, because in auditing, in ISO auditing, what you are looking out for is conformity and non-conformity. If it's a legal requirement, you call it compliance and non-compliance. But when it comes to auditing, like I said, you are looking out for conformity and non-conformity. Please, should you have anyone that is unable to watch, to join us via Zoom, you can as well send them the link. Let me quickly do that. That skipped my mind, because I know some people always find it difficult to join. So I want to open the link. Please, if you are following the class, please kindly signify. Let me know that we are on the same page. If you are with us and we are flowing together, please kindly type yes in the comment section. Thank you very much. Kindly type yes in the chat room. Let me know that we are on the same page. Thank you. So, okay, that is fine. So here is the link. Oh, sorry. So here is the link. Control V. You can share the link out, please. Please kindly share the link across. Share it to all WhatsApp group to join. They can watch live on YouTube. If you are finding it difficult to join on Zoom, Zoom can be funny sometimes, but YouTube is the direct access, so they can watch it live on YouTube. Please help us to send it to the various groups that we are. Thank you very much. Please help us to do that. We appreciate you. So then, after carrying out your audit, like I said, like we effectively said, conducting the audit activity, then the next thing that should be in your plan is your auditing report, because you will have identified conformance and non-conformance. And in the stage of identifying non-conformance, there has to be agreement. When you raise a non-conformance, you meet with the representative of the auditee to discuss about the non-conformance, for them to accept or give evidence to prove that yes, what you have said is not a statutory requirement, or is not a requirement in ISO or whatever criteria they are auditing with. So to be able to do that, after they've agreed, then you now raise, after they've confirmed it, then it has been approved that this is a non-conformity, then they will give you corrective actions. How do they want to correct or improve on it? How do they want to correct this non-conformity? What are the challenges? What are the issues that gave rise to the non-conformity? They will carry out an investigation to know why they have that non-conformity, and they would communicate, and they might, it's not compulsory, they might communicate their corrective action to you, or they might as well not communicate. That is not a requirement. Then after they've done the auditing, after they've done they've corrected it and they've reviewed it, then they will now invite you back to come and check and to come and close it out. It's always very important. So at this stage, you are preparing and distributing audit report to be sure that yes, these are what we observe during the audit process. Then after that, you complete your audit. Then you do follow up. So that is the activity. You can see that it's at the lower part under clause 6. That is the main activity of the audit. But you need to relate it back to your plan to be sure that what you are doing is what you plan to do. Between the aspect of implementing your audit program and monitoring your audit program, you have where you carry out the main activity. So on the edge of carrying out the main activity that we are talking about, definitely you need to monitor that audit program to be sure that what you've planned is actually what you're doing. Then you review and improve on the audit program. You can see that it's actually been applied in two ways. So as an auditor or as an auditing organization, the same as you are auditing an organization, you're also auditing your own audit program, the way you carry out your audit. And that is based on ISO 19011. So the other time we mentioned about auditing objectives. Auditing objective. How do you set objectives for auditing? We'll just quickly give us the various examples. You just quickly give us the various examples of audit program objectives. What are the various objectives that you can have? It is unlimited. It is unlimited. So we have some of them written here. Identify opportunities for the improvement of the management system and its performance. That can be the objective of the audit. We want to help them to identify the various opportunities that they can use to improve on their system. We want to support their system to be able to improve on their performance, on their management system and its performance. It can be that you want to support them in evaluating their capability of the auditee to determine its context. Is it that they don't understand the context of their organization? They don't understand what the context of their organization is, and you want to support them in evaluating the capability of this organization to be able to determine the context of their organization. Or the audit program can be based on evaluating the capability of the auditee to determine risks and opportunities and identify and implement effective actions to address them. Is it that they are unable to identify risks and opportunities? And these are all mostly based on the ISO standard. It can be to conform to all relevant requirements. The audit might be specifically to conform to a particular requirement. It can be to conform to regulatory or statutory requirement like the Factories Act, Workplace Compensation Act, and other compliance commitment or to a particular code of conduct. Like we have the NI Safety E, we have the code of conduct for engineering practice, for engineering for safety engineering practice. It can be that it can be an industrial standard. Maybe the oil and gas industry, they have some kind of standard. Like for example, in the marine sector, they have the NEMASA Act, and in the aviation sector, they have the Aviation Act. It might be based on that. We have the Eastbourne Act also. So it might be that they are trying to conform to all regulatory requirements. That can be the objective of the audit program. So you plan your audit program based on that. So who are you taking? Who will be your audit team? Those that understand that particular criteria that they are auditing against. Obtain and maintain confidence in capability of an external provider, or maybe they are trying to gain the interest of a particular client, and they want to ensure that they are conforming to their requirement, to the requirement of that particular client, so that they will not take away their interest, which is business interest. For example, we have safety consultants like ourselves. We are currently doing a kind of consultancy with an organization that is into internal designs. So they have a client that they are working with. So they want to ensure that they are conforming to their standard. So they engage us. So you as an auditor, to carry out your carry out your objective, or to establish your objective, what are you doing? Your objective will now be that your objective will now be that you want to help them to maintain confidence in the capability of an external provider to an organization. Your program objective can be to determine the continuous suitability, adequacy, and effectiveness of the auditing program. It might be that they have a management system. They can have an already established safety management system. And what you are going to do as an auditor is to help them to check the effectiveness and the adequacy of that management system. That is your objective as an auditor. Then it can be evaluating the capability and alignment of the management system objective with the strategic direction of the organization. It might be that what you're trying to do is to ensure that what their objective is for a particular management system, maybe food safety management system, or operational health and safety management system, or environmental management system, or quality management system, or energy management system. You want to ensure that you are aligning their objective to their direction, to where they are going to. They can't be planning to expand. For example, maybe they are planning, for example, that okay, by the end of the year, want to have 20 active sites that we are carrying out construction. So you as an auditor, what you are going there to do is to ensure that all what that is required for them to be able to meet up with the management system requirement at that time must be looked into. And that is what you'll be doing at the stage of carrying out your audit program objective, to ensure that what they are foreseeing, their direction, is in alignment with their objective to their safety management system. So you are trying to ensure that compatibility, and ensure that everything is being balanced, and not one is running ahead and the management system objective is just dragging behind. So it can also be part of your objective. Objective can be numerous, it can be unlimited. Let's move ahead. So after this, you are trying to determine and evaluate audit programs and opportunities. Remember that we talk about risks and opportunities that even the auditor needs to look at for himself. You can't be saying that you are going to audit an organization. For you to say that you want to go and audit an organization, it means that they have, or they want to have, a management system, policies, procedures, processes in which they use to carry out their activities on a regular basis. And you that you are going to carry out that particular action, you don't have a management system to carry out your own auditing. And part of what you look at for are risks and opportunities. Risks and opportunities that can be present in the audit program itself. There could be risks associated with the following. Now, planning. In the stage of the planning, there can be risks involved. For example, if there's a failure to set relevant audit objectives and determine the extent, number, and duration and location of the audit, for example, duration, location, and schedule of the audit. Now, this will come under the audit scope. If there is a failure in understanding the scope, there are times that auditors will go for audit and they'll tell them that they are not supposed to come today, or they are not expecting them today. It means that your audit program is very, the auditing program plan is very poor. You should have your already set objective, and you should be able to set the extent of the audit, the number of audit that you want to do. What kind of audit is it? Is it a first party, or second party, third party? You need to have this at the planning stage. So there could be risk associated with the planning. If the planning is not effective enough for them to carry out the audit, based on the extent of the audit, based on the number of audits, based on the duration of the audit. What is the planned duration of the audit? Is it for 5 days? Is it for 10 days? Is it for 3 weeks? And the schedule of the audit. And this will be found under the scope. And there can be challenges based on resources. Resources can also be based on mobilization also, allowing sufficient time to carry out the audit. Because in the stage of planning, in the stage of carrying out your audit plan for your pre-visit, you should have known the size of the organization, should have known what you are looking for, should have known their structure, their organogram, to know who are you communicating to at the point in time. When all these things are available, it poses risk to the audit. Risk is not necessarily something that will physically harm. Risk is something that will affect the progress of the audit. Risk is something that will affect the progress of the audit. We term it as risk. So when there is insufficient time, when there is equipment or training for developing the audit program or conducting an audit, maybe there are some equipment that they need to access, or even their mobilization to a particular point, or their means of moving. Even, let's say, for example, they need to audit like 3 sites. Maybe the 3 sites is within the same geographical location, but at different spots. There are cases where a company will have a warehouse in like 3 streets away or 2 streets away, and they have the organization and they have their factory maybe at another location, and they have their head office at another location, and they want to carry out a total audit. So in that case, there will be challenge, and that is an issue of resources. So all these things can pose risk, and these are what you plan ahead before you go ahead to carry out your audit. Selecting your audit team. Imagine selecting incompetent auditors, or auditors that do not understand the scope of the audit, or they are not equipped with relevant knowledge about the criteria in which you are auditing against. Such kind of thing will cause a challenge to the risk. We raise a serious risk to the audit itself. Communication can also be an issue. Ineffective communication in the process of carrying out the audit. So all these things are the things you are looking out for while you are carrying out your audit program, to be sure that every T is being crossed and every I is being dotted. Implementation. Ineffective coordination of the audit within the audit program. When you're now carrying out the implementation, remember in the PDCA cycle for the audit that will show the audit time. Let me go back. This place I will show you all the time. We talk about establishing your audit program and implementing your audit program. So after you've already established your audit program, and at the stage of implementing, there is no proper coordination. You've already assigned those that will check for documentation. You've already assigned for those that will go to various site locations, to various plot or warehouse or wherever the structure may be. You've already assigned those that will interview workers and get information. And when it's now time for implementation, there's no coordination. Everybody just doing what it feels like. At the end of the day, you will see that there can be duplication of efforts, which leads to waste. And those are the kind of waste we'll be talking about under. If you are doing auditing, maybe you are auditing a lean process now, or you are trying to conform to a lean process, then those are issues of redundancy or duplication of efforts. So controlling of documented information, it can also be a challenge, because you need to ensure confidentiality most times. The documented information that is required by auditors and relevant interested parties. Failure to adequately protect audit records to demonstrate audit program effectiveness. When you're carrying out an audit, you should not expose, you should ensure that the document that you are getting for your audit are being properly protected. Not even about the document itself now, even in the extent of communication outside the company you're auditing, because as an audit, as an organization that is carrying out audit, you should also have your own policies too. You should also have what makes you an audit organization. Imagine that you are auditing an organization now, maybe a company A, and there was some non-conformities and the likes, and you're able to identify them. And one day you are auditing a company B, the same company, you are auditing a company B or company C, and while doing their audit, you are now talking about what you observe in the company A. That is not that, or you are trying to share the information for company B to make use of in order to make their work faster or something. As an organization that is, as an individual that is an auditor that has been engaged, you are already violating so many regulations, so many rules. You are not protecting their documented information. So as an auditor, it should be part of your scope to ensure, when you are carrying out your audit program, to ensure confidentiality, monitoring, review, and improving the audit program, ineffective monitoring for audit program outcome. So there must be a already established process for monitoring, for reviewing, and for improving the audit program itself. See the three keywords there: monitoring. Because you that are carrying out an audit program, you carry out audits, you are planning to become a lead auditor, a champion in audit, then you should have all these skills with you. Monitoring is one, reviewing is one, and improving your audit program, so that when you are going to an organization, you portray yourself as an expert who knows what is doing. Even those that you are auditing and you are exposing the information of another company, they will have it in their own mind that this person that is telling us about company A, this same person will carry our own information to go and tell company C. So that is not the quality of an auditor, and all this should be reflecting in your audit program, so that you follow that process wherever you are carrying out your auditing. Availability and cooperation of auditing, and availability of evidence to be sampled. All this can also pose risk for the audit program itself, because when the information that you want to audit, the documentation information that you need to audit to get your to give conformance or non-conformance, the documented evidence that you need, and the practicality of what's available on site, if all those things are not available, then the audit cannot be successful. I know then, so those times, if there's a particular kind of audit, maybe on the construction site, the first thing that they will do is that they will stop that duration that the auditors are coming, they will stop all work at height. On a normal day, they are working at height, but for that particular day, they will say nobody should work at height. They will say them because they are auditing the construction side, they are auditing the project team, for example, maybe their project management system or whatever. And because of that, maybe they are auditing their safety management when it comes to project activities. They now say that okay, nobody should work at height because they are trying to prevent them from creating non-conformity. That is not good enough, because that will not, the outcome of the audit will not reflect the reality. Will not reflect the reality unless if work at height is not covered in the scope of the audit. That is the only case. But when it is covered, maybe okay, you are doing total auditing of project activities based on ISO 45001 on all our construction sites and the activities. Since they've already included it, definitely you should allow them to work. But we see most times workers will not be present. They will just say few workers to work, and they will now use that as a criteria to raise conformity or non-conformity and get certified. The company is only deceiving itself. It's only deceiving itself. So how do you, as an auditor, how do you improve your audit program? What are those things that you look out for as an auditor? Apart from what is here, I want one or two persons to give us an idea of how do you improve your audit program. When you are carrying out auditing, you are establishing your audit and you want to improve on your audit based on what you have said so far. How do you improve on it? Anyone? Please kindly raise up your hand if you want to join in this, if you want to say something. Because we've been talking about monitoring, reviewing, and improving. How do you improve your audit program? How do you improve on your system? Anyone? Okay, Mr. Shamsuddin, kindly unmute.
Okay, good evening. Hello, good evening.
Yeah, with you, sir.
Yes, okay, on audit, so I will make reference to ISO 9001. Generally, how to improve your audit is to make sure you you create awareness. Like everybody is more aware and more active of the procedures and of the objectives being put in place. And you start as it's written that you check for risk and opportunities. And when you see opportunities to improve, you take those opportunities and you observe some non-conformities. Maybe after first time audit, second time and the third time, you observe that you've been having non-conformity on one particular issue, maybe on maybe in a project you are executing or your project, time has been the issue. So you make improvement on that, you check, you try and solve that particular issue so that it won't keep repeating itself, because audit is not just I just do it because I need to do it, but it's been done to make an effect. It's not something you just do that I've done audit and that's all. Or you do audit and you don't follow up to cover up or to close out on the non-conformities you have. Thank you. That's my contribution.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much for that. Thank you so much for that. Any other person before we move ahead?
Yeah, okay. I am Wilson Aripo. I'm online. Can I speak, please?
Yes, sir. Yes,
God
very well,
bless
sir,
you.
my boss. You're welcome, sir.
Thank you. Thank you for the wonderful job, for the wonderful lecture. It's beautiful. There's one thing I've come to know from experience when doing audits. At times, people get to audit locations and behave like numero unos, like you know everything, and then you don't have time to be tactical enough to discuss with people. Now, for instance, if you come to check out, let's imagine it's an equipment audit or something, a survey you're doing around a facility. No matter how much of an expert you are, you will discover that if you're checking equipment like running engines and machines, there are some machinery that will have problems after they have run for like 30 minutes or 1 hour. At times, even for several hours before they begin to develop problems. Now, if part of the things you're going to do will be to check out for those kind of things, your report will not be complete. If you just come in, breeze in, do other things, collect documents, if you don't sit to have a confidentiality discussion with those who are directly involved with most of this equipment, they may never disclose to you the true nature of the things happening within the system, beyond equipment, beyond other things. Like you said earlier on, the day they know you're coming, they will put everything in place nicely. They know what non-conformities are. But if you discuss with the key staff and you gain their confidence level, they will disclose to you the real things they are going through and where they have real issues. Like I will tell them, listen, if you don't confide in me, it's to your own peril. You are the one on the job, you're the one on the assignment. If things go wrong, management has invested so much of money, they are going to definitely, blame you for whatever goes wrong. But when you have audits going on, it's opportunity to correct so many wrongs. Because when it comes in the report and you point it out, management will take it more seriously than when the staff tries to highlight those things. So I think when you do that, plenty of discussion with the people, it will also help improve on the audit program. Thank you very much. My humble submission.
Thank you very much, sir. That was well communicated, and thank you, Mr. Shamsuddin, also for that input. We really appreciate you. So let's quickly move on because of time. The input we gave, they are very fascinating, and we actually hit the nail on the head. There are a lot of things to look out for when it comes to improving our audit program, because there's always an opportunity for improvement. No matter how good you are as an auditor, there's always something that you need to look out for and to improve in your process. And that is why that is what we are looking out for here. So when you carry out your audit program, number one, these are opportunities for improvement for the audit program, allowing multiple audits to be conducted in a single site, because you want to ensure that your auditing is effective and you are maximizing your resources with you are maximizing the minimum resources that you have. and you are getting the best of results. So it's very important that you allow doing multiple audits on a single visit. You go to a particular site instead of coming back again to carry out the same kind of audit, or to carry out the particular audit. You can carry out multiple audits on a single visit. Another one is minimizing distance and time traveling to sites. When you are carrying out auditing, because at that the period of carrying out auditing, there will be so many distractions, normal life challenges. But what you are doing is you are trying to create an ideal situation. So there must be complete commitment. But when you now extend your level of exposures to risk, for example, living in a very far location, and where you are carrying out your audit is also very far, this can pose serious issue or serious this can affect the outcome of the audit. That is why it's very important to ensure that you minimize the distance, time travel. Sometimes when you go for auditing, the auditee will most times provide a very close location for the auditee to stay, in order to ensure that they use the time available for them to actually carry out their audit. Auditing is not only physical. There are some kind of audit that you also do offline that you do when you are not physically on site. So matching the level of competence of the audit team to the level of competence needed to achieve the audit objective. To improve on your audit program, you also need to know who are those people that you are engaging as your audit team, and ensuring that their competency is at par with the level of competence that is needed to achieve your audit objective. Aligning audit date with the availability of audit key staff. All this should have been highlighted during the stage of the audit planning phase to let them know that there must be availability of those will be auditing, the audited key staff, those that will be engaging the guide, and everyone must be available while doing your audit. You can't be on go for an audit in an organization and some people and those that you want to audit are not present. It's just a waste of effort. It will not reflect the reality of the organization. Now, the individual managing the audit should know the following. You need to communicate the relevant part of the audit program, including risks and opportunities involved, to relevant interested parties and inform them periodically of its progress using established external and internal communication channels. You need to ensure that there's effective communication. There must be effective communication between all representatives of the auditees, that is the organization that you're auditing. All the interested parties must be involved. Every interested party that has something to do with the audit must be involved in the audit. Let's say, for example, a 7-party audit. You are auditing for an organization, maybe you are auditing for an organization that wants to check the conformity of their contractor. They should also have a representative. The client that you are working with should also have a representative, and you must establish effective communication across board. You must be able to define your objective, scope, and the criteria for each individual audit that you are doing. All the auditing that you are doing, you must understand the scope and the criteria for that audit, so that you will not be working outside the scope and the criteria of the audit. Then selecting audit method. We'll still talk about auditing method. Like I said earlier, we have online, we have offline of the audit method. We'll still talk about that later. Coordinating and scheduling audit and other activities relevant to the audit program. There are a lot of activities that is involved in the audit. So there need to be proper coordination and scheduling your audit and other activities relevant to the audit program. If you want to carry out an audit, there will be a time, maybe you want to resume by 9 o'clock, the opening meeting from 9 to 9:15. After the opening meeting, maybe the first thing is to check documented evidence based on ISO standard, or the first thing is to go to site and look around and interview workers. There's a stage where you check documents. There's a stage where you check documents and interact with people. Like you are checking the document and you are interacting. We'll still talk about that under audit method. And you are asking questions. You are engaging in discussion. And the time that you go to site to walk around, to see physically without asking any question, and the time that you will have to sit down with workers, and the time that you will need to sit down with workers and interview them. You need to sit down with workers and ask them questions, engage them in order to get the relevant information that you need in order to carry out a successful audit. Then ensure the audit team has the necessary competence. Coordinate, ensure the audit team have the necessary competence. We've mentioned this already. Provide necessary individuals and overall resources to the audit team. What are those things that are required for the audit? If you are going to a site, you should provide them with at minimum the PPEs that they will need to carry out their work. If they are going and based on for example, maybe they are going for ISO 9001 and there's an aspect that has to do with calibration and the likes under the clauses. And because you have technical people who understand that aspect of auditing, then they should have every equipment that they will need to carry out to test the calibration and everything. So all the resources that are required, they are unlimited, depending on the scope of the audit. You need to understand the scope and the criteria for the audit to know the various resources that you put together in order to carry out a successful audit. Then ensure the conduct of audit in accordance with the audit program. Your audit, you need to plan everything. Everything starts with a plan. So after you've already established your audit program, you need to ensure that the audit is being implemented in accordance with the audit program, managing all the issues, all the opportunities, and all the risks that may arise as a result of the audit. During the audit, there can be serious engagement, there can be hot engagement, to and fro, like disagreement. It's part of the risk. During the audit, there can be a call for emergency. So your people must also be aware of this. They must also be aware of this possibility when carrying out the audit. So these are all the operational risks that must be identified before you carry out the implementation of the audit program. Then ensure relevant documented information regarding the audit activities is properly managed and maintained. Every documented information, every documented evidence that has been provided, or every other thing, starting from the smallest minute of the meeting, of the opening meeting and the closing meeting, to the audit evidences, to the non-conformity that was raised, and every other information that was raised during the audit that are documented, everything must be properly maintained and managed. Define and implement the operational control necessary for audit program monitoring, and review the audit program in order to identify opportunities for the improvement. So after you carry out your audit plan and you're implementing, there is always need for you to ensure that there's improvement, and you look out for rooms to improve via your reviews that you carry out after carrying out your audit successfully. So now let's go to the audit objective itself. Before we talk about the audit program objective. Now, the audit objective itself, that is for the proper audit that you want to do, for the organization that you want to do, define what is to be accomplished by the individual audits and may include the following. Now, you need to understand the extent of conformity of the management system to be audited, or part of it, with audit criteria. That is why most times what we use is a kind of checklist, a kind of already established checklist. Maybe, for example, ISO 45001 management system, there will be a checklist already. And those checklists, the way they are being designed, they are designed with respect to the criteria. Let's say, for example, in clause 5 talk about leadership, and it talks about leadership as organization should show that they are committed to health and safety of the workers, and workers' participation also is also part of their OHS policy and objective, and plans to achieve their OHS objective. Now, in the checklist will now be asking questions on: do they have OHS policy that has been signed by top management? Do they have a clear written statement of their safety objective? Do they have plans on how to review their objective to ensure that what they said they want to achieve, they're actually working towards it? And do they have established procedures for engaging workers to ensure worker participation? All this will have been highlighted from clause 4 that talks about context, to clause 5 that talk about leadership and workers' participation, to clause 6 that talk about planning, to clause 7 that talk about resources, to clause 8 that talk about operation, to clause 9 that talk about continual improvement, and to clause 10 that talk about what's it called? So all of them has their various subclauses, what it entails in them, and for all of them, the checklists have been designed in such a way that it is addressing important parts and aspects that require documented information. Not all the subclauses require documented information, but there are some parts that you must provide documented information for them. So the checklist has been designed in such a way. So when you're using this kind of checklist, for example, you can use it to determine the extent in which the organization has conformed to the management system to be audited. Then number two, evaluation of the capability of the management system, evaluating the capability of the management system to assist the organization in meeting relevant statutory and regulatory requirements. Let me come again. Evaluating of the capability of the management system to assist the organization in meeting relevant statutory and regulatory requirements. Remember that we used to talk about context of the organization, where we're talking about internal and external issues. We talk about other interested parties, stakeholders. The all interested parties also include regulatory bodies and complying to their standard and complying to their requirements and other requirements which the organization is committed to. Some requirements can be based on best practice. Some requirements can be based on business. Maybe, okay, for you to be able to work in oil and gas, for example, you need to have these requirements, and you're trying to help them to make sure that they meet up with that requirement. So evaluating the capability of the management system to assist them in achieving all those statutory and regulatory requirements and other requirements can be part of what your objective, what the audit objective will be. So audit objective is not always to comply with ISO 5001. There are a lot of things that has to do with audit objective based on the scope of the audit and the criteria to which you are auditing against. Evaluating the effectiveness of the management system to meet its intended results and identifying opportunities for potential improvement. That can be what you need to look out for when you want to define your audit. Then it can also be evaluating the suitability and adequacy of the management system with respect to the context and strategic direction of the auditee. We talk about this the other time. And evaluating the capability of a management system to establish and achieve objectives and effectively address risk and opportunity in a changing context, including implementation of the related actions. For example, an organization says that they want to improve suitability of PPE or provision of PPE for workers by 90% in the next 3 years. So meaning that is an objective. Now, there should also be a plan on how they want to achieve the objective. And they should also provide documented information to show that this is how they are able to monitor. You know, we talk about monitoring, review, and improving. Those terms will always be at the back of our mind. Monitoring, review, and improving. So they need to provide a system that has been established in order to achieve that. So being able to evaluate the capability of the management system to establish and achieve their objective that they set for themselves, address the various risks and opportunities that they have been exposed to based on the scope and the criteria for which they are auditing against. And that is all what you need in order to accomplish various types of audits. Now let's talk about audit scope now. In order to identify the audit scope, your audit scope should be consistent with the audit program and the objective. The scope of your audit, when you say scope, you're talking about the boundary line that the audit is about. Like I said, an organization can decide to audit maybe their raw meal, for example. They can decide to audit maybe their waste management system. They can decide to audit their effluent treatment plant. They can decide to audit what's it called? They can decide to audit their process line alone. So depending on what the objective of the audit is, we now tell us what your scope will be. And these are the factors you look out for. The location of the audit is very important. Now, this location is very, very important. And remember then, even though it's not audit, our engineers then used to tell us that anytime, sorry for those for our Eastern brothers from the east side. Sorry, it's not about east or west, but this is an example. They said anytime they are going to some part of the east, maybe for a construction project, that they will need to settle. That there are times that they beat the particular engineer that shared the story with me. That the first day he went to the site, they beat the hell out of him. As in, they beat the hell out of him. Maybe he got to site and was getting to site. You have the laborer, the craftsman. You don't know who is who. Maybe after that day, they say we'll get you for outside, and they dealt with him. So in that kind of case, you as an auditor or you as an auditing organization, you need to understand the location of the audit, to know the various risks and opportunities that are there for your auditors not to be beaten, for example, just an example. And it can be based on other conditions. There are times I've heard of stories of, if you are living in a particular place in Port Harcourt, you will always hear smoke, fumes, maybe based on the industry that they're working there. Those are the things you look out for. So you need to understand the location of the audit. It also include the distance from where you are or where your auditors are to where they are going to audit. Every aspect of risk that is involved, you need to evaluate it in your audit program. And you need to use it to define your audit scope. Because if you are going to audit their site, maybe a process plant in Enugu, for example, or in their factory that is in maybe Ikeja, that is the scope of the audit. Nothing concerns you with the factory that is in Anambra State, because your scope is only focusing on that particular factory that you are going to audit. So if you are going to issue a certificate for maybe for certification after the surveillance and everything, and want to issue certificate, the certification will be basically for that particular location. It can even be based on process. It can even be based on the ETP, reference treatment plan. It can even be based on the process line. It can even be auditing on their fire hydrant system. Whatever they want to audit is what you focus on. That will be the scope of your audit. You can't be auditing fire hydrant system and you not look at smoke detectors, because some are designed in such a way that it's the smoke detector that will trigger the fire hydrant system to work based on the alarming system that has been established. Well, you can't be auditing fire system and you are not talking about fire extinguisher. But you can't be auditing fire and you are not concerned about the smoking point. It's part of what you look out for. At the same time, you can't be auditing fire and you're not looking at the emergency response system. You look at it, but there are some things that are not related and are not related to fire. Let's say, for example, their waste control. Their where they are putting their dump, their waste, and how they generate waste and manage their waste. It should be ideal. It's not within the scope of what you want to audit. So your scope will be based on the criteria you have set and what the audit objective is about. Then the time period that has been established to cover to carry out the audit. Then auditing criteria. Criteria can be anything. I've mentioned many of them. I said code of conduct can be criteria. It can be based on best practice. It can be based on what a client needs. A client can have their management system and tell you that this is their criteria for you to audit. It can be based on ISO standard. It can be based on code of practice. It can be based on legal requirements, statutory requirements. It can be based on Factories Act. It can be based on Eastbourne Act. It can be based on NIMASA. Depending on maybe the industry, there are many criteria that you can use to audit. So you focus on that criteria and you work based on that criteria. Recently, like I said earlier, NISATE has been able to develop codes of conduct for construction companies, for construction activities, which has been approved. So a company can say that, okay, we want to use the code of conduct of NISATE to establish our process, to be sure that we are conforming to their requirement. And that their requirement is a reflection of our competency in addressing safety engineering issues. So your criteria is very important. You can't work outside the criteria. You can't be auditing using ISO 5001 and let me use 9001 because that has a lot of management system. You can't be auditing 9001 now, for example, and you start talking about Six Sigma standard, Six Sigma regulation. No, it doesn't work, because ISO standard 9001 is the criteria for the audit. So your auditing should be based on that particular standard. Now, talking about your auditing members, we also mentioned this earlier. You need to ensure that your auditing members should comprise of those that is required for the particular task based on the criteria, the scope, and the objective. Always note it. Criteria, scope, and the objective of the audit. Because it's the scope, the criteria, and the objective that will determine who are those that will form your team. There may be need for technical experts, maybe for a process line, maybe for a boiler unit, or for calibration, or for waste management, or for an expert in sustainability or environmental management. Maybe you want to do all this for ISO 40001. All these are what you use to select your audit team. An audit team should be selected taking into account the competency needed to achieve the objective of the audit. You don't just carry people around and say, okay, come. Yes, they are part of the audit team for based on the sake of continuity. For the sake of continuity and people learning, you can have auditor in training. Yes, it's accepted. Trainee, audit trainee that will just come to observe, to watch, to learn. Yes, but also it will also include those that are experts in the field that understand what you want to achieve based on the objective. You need to understand the competency requirements, and you need to select the audit team member so that the necessary competency is present in the audit team. It's very important for your auditing. Whether it's internal audit, you just bring people together and say, okay, you are all in the safety committee now. Oh yeah, let's come together. Let's go and do audit. They can be able to do audit because they will say, okay, it's not just to look at document and see if the document is the same thing that they say we will provide. No, it's beyond that. You need to scrutinize. You need to go into the site and see the reality of what is happening on site. Let me give you an example of real life practicability. Part of the example that Engineer Jamie Badmus gave us when we are in QMSAI Academy. The example was that you go to site. I think he went to site to see the practicality of thing, and he was engaging the worker. He said, so the worker already know that there was an audit going on. So as they're asking him, they asked him, what is the objective? I think we were asking him, what is the objective of a particular question that is specific? And the worker was saying that, they train us about safety. They tell us to be compliance. They were asking him a specific question. Okay, they were asking him if they've communicated the health and safety policy to him. Normally, while doing your induction, your HSE policy should be communicated to your workers, and you should provide evidence of communication of HSE policy. And it can even be some organization will write the HSE policy in a kind of card and give them as their card or at the back of their ID card, so that they will always go check it anytime they need it. And they will also periodically tell them to understand the policy of the organization. It should be pasted publicly, maybe at the entrance, the objective, the policy, and the likes. So they're asking this guy, what is the policy of the organization? He said, okay. They're asking him, have they communicated the policy, health policy to you? He said, yes. They tell us to be safety compliance. They tell us to use our PPE. They tell us to do this. They tell us to do that. He was just saying rubbish because he knew that there was audit. So he was saying things to appear sweet. But technically, they don't know that this person has not been communicated to about the OHS policy. Because if they have talked to you about OHS policy, you should understand what that policy means. You might not be able to cram it, not about cramming, but you should understand that, okay, the OHS policy talks about the management commitment, expression of their commitment to health and safety. That's the basic thing that every worker has to know that HSE policy is about. So they were asking some questions technically, and they were providing the evidence that they've done it. You know, they will quickly write name on the document, they will backdate and everything. But because we were able to go to site to practically see what is happening, and they were able to interview the workers, ask some open-ended questions. We would have loved to talk about how to engage interviews. Ask some open-ended questions, some stylish questions that will make them to express themselves and be able to open up. So because of that ability and technicality and expertise in auditing, they were able to get information that they were proving, and they were bringing documents. Show me, show me, show me. It's not about show me, not only to show me, but to see it on site, at the practicality of what is happening on site. These are what you look out for when you are selecting your team. Then after carrying out your audit program, your audit, there should be management of the audit program, and to ensure that these things are performed. You look at it, have you been able to achieve the objective of the audit? Remember that at the beginning, we talked about the various objectives to help a company to comply to a particular standard, or to support them in getting their strategic direction together with their MS system, or to help them to evaluate their improvement and other things. So at the end of the audit, you check if you are able to achieve the objective of the audit. Review and approve audit report regarding the fulfillment of the scope and the objective. So after you raise your conformity and non-conformity, there should be room for you to review and approve all the audit reports, which has to do within the scope and the objective of the audit. Then review the effectiveness of action taken to address audit findings. You need to review how effective it is. How effective it is for them, review of the effectiveness of the action taken to address audit findings. After you've had your audit findings, and your audit findings, the evidence are there, you've already gotten your evidence for your audit findings, and after the auditing process, you raise a non-conformity and they agree, and they say these are the things they will do to correct them. Now you need to review that effectiveness of what they say they want to do. Will it be effective enough to address that audit findings? Those are what you do when you are talking about your audit program results. Then distribute the audit report to relevant interested parties. Then determine the necessity to do a follow-up audit. If there are no conformance, definitely there must be a follow-up. If there is conformance and everything has been closed, then there will be a surveillance audit. There will be a surveillance audit that will happen first year, end of first year, end of second year. That is for third-party certification. Then few months to the third year, there will be like a surveillance that will be done so that they will be able to prepare their next certification. So all these things are very important after carrying out your audit. Then monitoring your audit program. You that you are managing the audit program, these are the things that you're evaluating. Whether the schedule have been met and audit program objective have been achieved. What you plan to do, do you achieve it? The performance of the audit team member, including the audit team leader and the technical experts. You need to check those that were engaged for the audit, the audit team members. What is their performance? You need to evaluate them also. Then the ability of the audit team to implement the audit plan, to follow the plan from beginning to the end, after you've identified the various risks and opportunities. Then feedback for audit clients, auditee, auditors, technical experts, and other relevant parties. You need to get feedback from them, from the auditing client. Maybe you're auditing for a company, maybe second party audit, or from the auditees that you're auditing, from the various auditors that you used as an organization, then from the technical expert and every other party that is involved. Sufficiency and adequacy of documented information in the whole process unit. And lastly, let's talk about audit planning and audit quickly before we call it a day. Now, here is what we should have discussed. I don't know if everything is covered, but process approaching to auditing, the PDCA cycle and the process approach, the risk-based approach to audit planning, risk-based approach, then audit planning details and applying audit method. So when we're talking about the process approach, definitely is a PDCA process approach. We are looking at the process. Auditors should understand that auditing a management system is auditing an organization's process, because it is their processes, their procedures, their policies that they are put together to establish a management system. So you are auditing their process and the interaction between these processes in relation to one or more management system standard. Consistent and predictable results are achievable more effectively and efficiently when activities are understood and managed as interrelated processes that function in a coherent system. You need to understand that management system has to do with interrelated processes that are working together to achieve a set goal and objective. So when you're talking about the process approach, auditing generally, you are auditing the system, and you should understand that they are interrelated and they work together. So there must be understanding of, for example, if you look at our clauses, like we said, for example, in ISO standard, the clauses are interrelated from clause clause 4 to clause 10. They are just differences from each standard, depending on the risks and opportunities that are there and their own peculiarity. But you'll be able to flow around the auditing system. You'll be able to work around them because they are interrelated processes and they work together. The process unit depends on the material storage unit. The warehouse unit depends on the what's it called? The procurement unit. Everything is working simultaneously together. It's like a building. The civil works, the welding operations, the casting, the carpentry work, the scaffold, everything works together and they are interrelated and it depends on themselves. That will give you an approach into how to smoothly carry out your auditing without any glitch. So using the PDCA cycle, like we used to talk about, planning means that what you want to do, doing how you want to do it, checking if what you plan to do is what you are doing, and act means that checking if you are doing it right. Checking if those things that you say you will do, what are those things that you need to improve on in order to ensure that what you plan to do is what you are doing. So planning is what you plan to do, doing is actually implementing. Then checking means that you are trying to see how you are performing in your audit. Then doing act means that you are looking at areas for you to improve on the system. So in the planning stage, you're talking about the process, the flow chart, the instructions, the procedures that have been established. Then in the stage of the doing means you are observing, getting explanation, looking at records and the likes. Then checking means, doing also means inspections, risk assessment, a lot of things being done at the stage of doing. Then checking means that your standard specification, target, meeting up with the objective. And act means that, okay, after you have carried out what you say you want to do, is it acceptable? Should it be rejected? Are there need for adjustment or rework or repair? These are what you look out for in your plan, do, check, act. Process audit is an objective evaluation of the process to determine the extent to which the process is meeting its requirements. You need to understand that when you're carrying out an audit, a process audit, you are evaluating the process to know if they are meeting up with their requirements. Using this definition of process, the process audit include examination of the input, the activities, and the process. The input, the activities, and the process. The activity is what turns the input into the output. So you have your process input, you have the activities that is happening therein, and the output of this process. Now let's look at the risk-based approach to planning. We just picked these slides, some of the slides. Now, in planning the audit team leader should consider the following: the composition of the audit team and its overall competence. We've mentioned that before. The appropriate sampling technique that you want to use to carry out your audit. Practically, there are sampling methods that are used in auditing too. You can't check all the process. For example, let's say you want to do ISO 9001, and maybe you are auditing a bottling company, and you want to check their sampling method, or you want to check their labeling method, if the effectiveness of their labeling, the labeling of the bottles. You can't check all the bottles. It's not possible. So you use a random sampling method and other method of sampling. Those ones are at the technical level, but you must select an appropriate technical sampling method that is suitable for what you want to do in order to get a data that will represent the true reality of what is happening in the process. So mostly they use random sampling, but there are also some other sampling methods that are being used under statistics, like the ANOVA and the likes. We don't want to go into that now. The opportunities to improve the effectiveness and efficiency of the audit activities. The risk to achieve the audit objective created by ineffective audit planning. Then the risk to the auditee created by performing the audit. When an audit is being established or an audit is being done, there are some risks being created while performing the audit. In this case, these are also what you look out for. Remember, we talk about the various risks that the audit program should cover, and you should be able to identify them and put proper corrective actions in place. Then talking about audit planning details, like we've said from the beginning, this is just a recap of all what we've said. You must understand and make reference to the audit objective, the objective of the audit, what you want to achieve with the audit, then the scope of the audit and the criteria to which you are auditing on. The scope is within the definition, the boundary line of what you want to audit. Then the criteria that you are using to audit, then the location of the audit, is it physical or virtual? The need for the audit team to familiarize themselves with auditing facilities and processes, like going around physically to check what is happening on the process and reviewing information and communication technology. The audit method to be used and the sampling method to be used, the role and responsibility of the audit team members. All this is always covered in the full course. When we talk about the role of the auditor, the role of the auditee, the role of the guardian, the role of the observer, and every other person, audit team leader, their roles and responsibilities. All these things have been covered in the full training course, as well as the guidance and observers. The allocation of appropriate resources based upon consideration of the risks and opportunities. You need to understand this aspect of resources too. We've already mentioned it and talked about this earlier also. Audit plan should take into account, as appropriate, identifying the audit or the auditing representative for the audit. Those that you want to go and audit, they must have representatives too that you'll be communicating to at all time. And you must understand their organogram and who you'll be communicating to at any point in time. Who is responsible for a particular process that you want to audit or a particular scope. So from the scope of the audit, you know who you are expecting to see and who you are expecting to engage. Like what my Oga said, give example of equipment. Maybe you want to audit the equipment only, and the other that the workers have been exposed to. Then you should be expecting to engage the operators too. So you can't be doing that kind of audit and you are not interviewing the operator, the production manager, the engineers, all of them, the maintenance person, all those people will be proper, should be available because they have a huge share of that, of all the equipment. So the audit topic, the audit report topics, the logistic and communication requirements and arrangements, any specific action to be taken to address risks to achieving the audit objective and operating and opportunity arising, matters relating to confidentiality and information security. All these have been mentioned already. Any follow-up action from a previous audit or other sources. There can be a follow-up. It can be a kind of maybe second audit that they are doing for the organization, and you might need to check out for the non-conformity that was raised previously, and if it has been adequately closed out. Then any follow-up action, any follow-up activities to the planned audit. All these are what is involved in ISO 9011 when you are carrying out your audit program or audit management system. Coordination with other audit activities in case of if you are having a kind of joint audit. We are almost done. Now, talking about audit method, there are a lot of variety of audit method that you can apply. An audit can perform using a wide range of methods. The audit method choosing for an audit depends on the defined audit objective, scope, and criteria. We've mentioned this severally, as well as the duration and the location of the audit, which is also under the scope. Audit, available auditor competence, and any uncertainty arising from the application of an audit method should also be considered. What are the various risks that can be that can arise as a result of carrying out a particular audit method? Applying a combination of this method, you don't only use one, you use a combination, you use physical and virtual. It will help it will optimize and make the audit much more effective and efficient. Say this where you need to communicate or where you need to just have a kind of verbal communication only, that you don't need physical interaction. It can be done virtually. And you go, maybe when you go to site, you do the multiple activities at the time. You can request for some other means to ensure that you're able to capture as much information as possible that you need. If an audit involves the use of an audit team with multiple members, both online and offline may be used simultaneously. So we have various methods. We have on-site. On-site is audit activities are performed at the location. They go there physically on-site to check, to carry out the audit. We have remote audit too. Audit activities are performed at any place other than the location of the auditee, regardless of the distance. So someone that is in UK or US, for example, can carry out an audit on a particular scope based on the scope of the audit. Please help us respond to that, baby. So can carry out an audit based on the scope of. Please help us answer this, baby, now. Based on the scope of the audit, can based on the scope of the audit and the criteria they are auditing against, can require a remote kind of audit. Interactive audit is when audit activities involve interaction between the auditee personnel and the audit team. The non-interactive is that there's no human interaction. It's also only the person observing and checking documents and equipment and the facility and documentation, but it's not interacting with anybody. These are ways of carrying out an audit. It's not every time that you talk, ask questions. There are some that you just observe, you look around. Then after you've done all those ones, you now sit down and start asking questions. And there are sometimes that you need to ask immediate questions from those that are operating or from those workers that you see on site when you are engaging them. Now, this is just a table to expatiate on this. Now, we did this on site and off site, that is remote, against human interaction and no human interaction. So for you to understand what applies to each. For example, if you have on-site audits, for example, let's look at on-site audits, like the person, the auditor is physically present on site and there's human interaction. What are those activities that takes place? What are those activities that takes place? Number one, conducting interviews that involve physical interaction, physical presence, and human interaction. Conducting interview can also be remote too. Completing checklists and questionnaires that can be done both on-site and off-site. It can be done both online, on-site and off-site, because it involves human interaction. They can interact while completing the checklist. Why carrying out the checklist? Because you're asking questions and they're answering you. They can still go to site for the case of remote. You can still go to site later physically to go and confirm them, but they can provide the evidence for you, and you can also do it virtually. Then conducting document review with auditee participation. So in that case, you can also have it physically or virtually. That is conducting document review with the auditee participation. You are reviewing the document. And carrying out sampling can be only done physically, because you'll be physically there to carry out your sampling. So it's only the sampling that makes the physical much more better when it comes to auditing. But all in all, physical is always the best option, because you get to see things the way they are. But there are sometimes that you need to go virtual when it comes to, especially when it comes to no human interaction. So for no human interaction, you still need, there are still activities that have to do with document review. Conducting document review, you can do that without human interaction. Maybe you are checking the record, you are looking at their data analysis, you are looking at their dashboard and the likes. Then observing work performed. You can observe work performed on site physically, and they can also be observation of work performed via surveillance means. Conducting on-site visits. Conducting on-site visits. There are times that then when we work with consultant side, they will tell us that our client, that anytime they can just position, and it is true, they can just position a what's the name that they used to call this thing? No, this thing that they used to, a drone. They can position a drone that you not know, and the drone will be capturing everything everything happening on site. The world has gone technological, so audit can be done in various means. So conducting on-site visits, which is physically being there, it can also be done online. It can only be done on site. Then considering social and statutory and the regulatory requirements, that can be done remotely also. Then conducting checklists and sampling, all this can be done on site. And analyzing data can be done off site. They can send you their data, maybe their Excel sheet of their past past monitoring the evaluation and monitoring system, maybe imputing their HSE data on safe on safe condition, near misses and the likes, and you are analyzing the data because they send it to you. Those ones do not require physical presence. You can do that when you need no human interaction, and you can do it offline without being on site. So these are the various audit methods that are being used to carry out audit. There are a whole lot of things that is involved, pros and cons, but on in all, we are just giving us an overview of the various methods that is being used for auditing, and that will take us to the end of this presentation. Thank you so much for your presence. Thank you for choosing to be with us. We appreciate you. At this point in time, before we go to question and answers, because I know that people will start going off now. Before we go to question and answer session, let us quickly talk about QMSAI. Okay, let us talk about this first. We are having our integrated management system. Well, 2 weeks ago, we did our 9001. The exam was on last week. It was yesterday. So we did ISO 5001 ISO lead auditor course, and it was successful. So tomorrow we are starting our integrated management system, and this is being done by the body is QMSAI. If you have any question concerning QMSAI, you can actually ask me now, and I will give as much explanation as possible. So we are having our integrated management system tomorrow, 14th to 18th, and we are giving it at including certification and the training section, the examination and certification. They are all given at 350,000 naira for the integrated, and you'll be getting the 3 certificates differently for that. The class starts tomorrow. So after that, we are also having our other ones coming up. We have ISO 9001 coming up in ISO 9001 coming up in on the 20th of August. That is going for 120 only, 120,000 naira, including certification, membership. Sorry, it's not membership, including certification, the training session, and examination. Same thing applies to ISO 40,001, also 120,000. The price might increase later. Remember, we're talking about QMSAI. And when we were explaining, we said that enough at the beginning of the class for those who join later. So many times we've been doing these lot of certifications. Personally, is a concern to me. And it is time for us to actually liberate ourselves, because looking at not only Nigeria, Africa as a whole, we depend so much on foreign organizations for everything that we want to eat. We import so many things. We import shoes, import wares, import food, import toothpick, import everything, import cars. And surprisingly, we even import knowledge. As you use that term, we even import certification. Once we see that and the certification is from a foreign body, we give it so much priority, and we put our own, we make our own. It seems to be useless. And the irony of it is that people, all these companies, all these countries out there, they are rushing our graduates. They are rushing our people. They are employing them there because they see that the process that which we go through to become certified as an African, because our melanin is not only about the color, it's about our capability and capacity. They see that capacity in us. That's why they always rush us to employ us, and they are doing everything possible to carry out, to take us out of the country to use us. So when it comes to certifications, we also depend on these foreign certifications. Though we might have our internal issues, but I will tell you, if we do not promote ourselves, nobody will do that for us. Let me give you an example. We talk about IACA, we talk about PDCA. Yes, they are fine. I'm not against IACA, I'm not against PDCA. I'm not against any of this. But I will tell you that IACA and PDCA started a particular day, and it's just, and they have been registered in their company, in their country, just like you also register here you also register your company here in Nigeria with CAC. So they are individual organizations that have been registered, but because there are people who are able to support, to promote, and to put everything that is possible for them to be able to get to that level, we that we are now in other countries, especially in Africa, yeah, you see them, they are rushing, you see them, they are coming here in masses because they know that we have the number, we have, and we believe so much in certification. You see somebody doing a Bosch and doing CSP at the same time, but when you tell them to do ISPON, it's a problem. Yes, we know we have internal issues, but we can't do that. Internal issues can never be solved by an external person. It is we that will solve our own issues ourselves. Every other country out there, please, every other country out there also have their own personal issues, internal issues. So don't let us use that as an excuse to leave our own. We are the only one that can liberate ourselves. Yes, ISPON is on the top of the resolution, and I'm very sure that very soon they will get out of it. If not, we the young professionals are ready to do what it takes to ensure that we have only one ISPON, and not only about ISPON, about liberating ourselves from total dependency. QMSAI, for example, is Quality and Management System Auditing Institute. Is one of its kind in Africa, that their focus is to ensure that we can certify ourselves. Most of these other ones that come to our country, for example, it is even we that even train ourselves, but we take the whole thing there and they give us a certificate. Is it someone will ask me, who is this, which country is which company is doing the, which organization is doing the certificate? When I tell them QMSAI, they were asking me, is it IACA? Is it PECB? I tell them IACA is a UK organization. PECB is a Canadian organization. I heard of a story of a particular professional in HSC who went to Canada, but he had IACA. When he presented the IACA to them, they said no, that he has to do PECB because that is what is applied to their country. That is promoting their own content. So let us, this ideology needs, we need to have a review. Let us look at what Engineer Jamin Badmus is doing concerning the QHSS Academy. I also just finished with QST Academy. I can tell you that the content is enough to get a master's, a professional master's in health and safety. In fact, it should be equivalent to level 7 based on the content, based on what is being taught. That is Africa to the world. We need to start embracing ourselves and supporting ourselves. QMSAI, what is it called? IACA or PC, for example, didn't become accredited the same day like this, the same day that they open up, that they started, they didn't become accredited. Because for you to be accredited, you need to provide evidence of those you have trained, those you have auditors, your auditors that have registered with you, and every other thing that is required. Those are the things that will be presented to accreditation body that will now accredit us. PCB, I'm taking time to explain this for us because I know we have questions concerning QMSAI. Let me say, for example, IACA, for example, is registered under UCAS. It's registered under UCAS and other ones, but let us use UCAS. Now, UCAS is also a UK accreditation body. In Nigeria, we have NINAS. So NINAS, we accredit us by God's grace, and we are in the process. But UCAS did not accredit IACA the day IACA started, because IACA need to provide evidence of those they have trained. They need to provide evidence for their auditor, those are members, before they can accredit. So now that QMSAI has decided to liberate us for total dependency on foreign organizations, and we pay in dollars every time, we pay in pounds, and pounds is increasing every day. Why can't we have our own that will be internationally recognized? So QMSAI came up with this ideology to have our own content, and it has been registered. Before they were registered, they went through hell. In fact, an organization that I will not mention his name, one of these government organizations wanted to hijack QMSAI. They wanted to hijack it, if not for the appeal court of law. The DG, Mr. Cletus Akibe, went extra mile for this purpose. In fact, there are days that he almost lost his life on this course. Because why can we, when we can do this thing ourselves and become internationally recognized, why do we need to depend on those foreign organizations? So we need to provide evidences, and we are the evidences to engage QMSAI, to do training, to become members. All these things are what they will put together and present to NINAS to now accredit us. NINAS is an accreditation body that also belongs to IAF, that is IAF. IAF is where all of them belong to. UCAS, PECBK, UCAS, IAS, and all of them, they all belong to IAF, IAF, and NINAS too. So NINAS accredit QMSAI, and it will become recognized. PECB, UCAS has been issued certificates before they became accredited, and their certificates were internationally recognized. So it's not an issue of is it accredited, because they have been registered as an organization to carry out this training in Nigeria. Unless you are saying that we don't give value to our country only. And for them to now get to that higher stage, we need to engage with them. You need to do certification with them. You need to do membership with them. And they are bringing up, look at the cost of our ISO course. It's supposed to be 150,000. Even the 150 is cheaper compared to amount that we pay for IACA and PCB. Now to talk of we now bringing it down to 120 to make sure that we have more people to engage, so that we can successfully get to that level when we can be proud of the African content. We have all it takes. We have the population, we have the technical expertise, we have the knowledge, we have everything that it takes for us to have our own auditor institute. Just like the UK have UCAS, and just like the UK have IACA, and Canada has PCB and every other ones, and Exemplar Global and the likes. We need to have our own, and that is why we are talking about this at this point in time. The content that you've seen that we use for this training is being developed by QMSAI, and our first training that we did, that is from Quarter Safety Consult, because Quarter Safety Consult is an accredited training provider with QMSAI. We believe in our content, we believe in the African content, and that's why we have gone extra mile to do this. So to become a member, you can actually chat. You can chat me up directly. The focus of QMSAI is to become a professional body for management system audit professionals, and for quality professionals and those seeking expertise in improving product, project, and service environment. Now, QMSAI is going extra mile by God's grace, because it's not only going to be a trainer, they are also going to be a certification organization. An accredited organization to certify, to accredit certification organizations in Nigeria and Africa at large, and even in the world, because the worldly recognized. PECB, for example, is only into training, ISO trainings, for example. IACA, the CQI of it, are into accrediting organizations that want to become certification bodies. If you want to have an understanding of all these things, accreditation body and certification body and the likes, maybe later we'll still talk about it in another series, but there are levels to this thing, and we can get to that level, that high level, and even surpass it when we engage our very own content, and with time we will get out there. So that is what we have for us today. We have a lot of plans at QMSAI to build our own community, to extend professionalism, to engage our auditors, to ensure that there's practical understanding of what audit really means, apart from the training, and to build a world where Africa we see as an example for when it comes to standard training in auditing and ISO certification. Thank you very much. To become a member, you can to follow up, to take any of our courses, like we said. Our IMS will be coming up tomorrow, starting tomorrow. But we will finish ISO 5001 last week, upper week. ISO IMS will be starting next week. Then next is 9001, which will be August 28th. And the following will now be ISO 14001, which is environmental, which will be September 11th. So if you have any information concerning QMSAI or concerning our courses, you can chat me up directly via this line 450-454. I'm putting it down. So please, okay, for everyone. Okay, someone is asking, what is the accreditation body for IACA? They can have many. It's not only one, but I know that they are accredited by UCAS. UCAS, at least you should have one accredited by UCAS. Someone said, but the fees is on the eye. Since you want local content, not that we want. It's not about want. It's about the need. It's not about if we want. It's about we need it. Enough of this total dependence should be lower because there is no foreign currency exchange involved. Now, as an organization, when you're running an organization, you understand that there are so many things involved. As an organization, for you to be able to maintain an organization like the one that we are looking up to, that will become that will get to that highest level, definitely you know that so many finances need to be involved. To get for example, to get that to become accredited by NINAS, it cost, as at the last time, it cost 8 million naira. Now that is just to become accredited. A lot of money has been spent backward. I'm just giving these are confidential information. I'm just giving you an example. So it's not about the fees now, because when you look at the fees compared to the amount you pay for those ones that you do out there that I have also done before, you will see that the difference is clear. When someone was doing the calculation for me some time ago, he said he spent close to 275,000 naira. I think the person said 275 or so. Yes. He said he spent close to 275,000 naira for one of the ISO. And this is 120,000. So let's compare the price. And when you are doing the training, the training process, if it's going to be physical, the venue, the resources that will be provided, everything together combined with the amount to be paid for the certification and every other thing, you can't tell me that 120 is too high. It is time for us to support ourselves. UCAS too was supported by its people, and that is how they became worldly recognized. Someone is asking, what's the full meaning of UCAS? UCAS is, I think, United Kingdom Accreditation System. I set us to be asking about NINAS, the UK accreditation system, I think. So, in NINAS is Nigerian National Accreditation System. NINAS, UCAS, IAS, they are on the same level. Okay. I think there's another question here. Yes, the current please let's mute. Let us mute. Please let us mute. Someone is asking if there's virtual. Yes, sir. We are currently running a virtual class. The class that we are currently running now is a virtual class. What is the proposed accreditation body with body will be okay? I get the question. NINAS, the one in Nigeria. IACA started with the one in their country, UCAS. PDCA started with the one in their country, IAS. So we are starting with one in our country too, which is NINAS, and they are the same level. If you go to IAF now, if you go to their website, you will see NINAS there, you will see UCAS there, you see IAS there, you will see KAS there, the one of Korean. They are all there. So, my Oga, Mr. Adefela, we are having a virtual class soon. We are having a virtual class already. The ones that we are doing now is virtual, completely virtual. And this thing, integrated management system will start tomorrow. So, for further information, you can still chat me. I know you have my details anyway. So, for others who might be interested, that's my contact. That's our contact. If you want to become a member of QMSAI, it's also we are also very much available for membership. These are the stages for membership: student auditor member, associate auditor member, principal auditor member, chartered auditor member, and fellow. So these are the levels in which we are, in which we have created various forms of membership and the requirement. If you want further information, kindly chat me up. So please, if you have any question now concerning the training or concerning all that I said afterwards, please let us ask our questions. Thank you, Mr. Lucky, for that feedback. Thank you so much. I appreciate you too, sir. Mr. Lucky, I appreciate you so much. Our content must be appreciated, starting from, and as Africa at large. It's not only about Nigeria now. Yes, we know that Nigeria is the giant of Africa. Look at QMSAI. Look at QHS Academy by Nigerian Badmos. If you go through that course, you know that yes, this is what they call professional course. In fact, it's even going closer to being academic, because we learn a lot of things, even that I've never learned before, across various industries. And that went for more than 8 months. And you're telling me that one should not be equivalent to, it should not be equivalent to Nebroch diploma, or it should not be equivalent to level 7. Come on. Try and go through QMSAI Academy first. Then you see what I'm talking about. So we have the capacity, we have all it takes. Enough of these white papers that we carry around as a certificate. Let us build our own content and promote it. I'm an African first before any other thing. And we are all Africans. And Africa should be our priority. We know we have issues, but it's only we that can solve the issues. Same thing applies to ISPON too. ISPON certification, level 3. JHSC. We need to do it. We need to go for it. We need to go for it. Forget that this one is not promoting. This one is having issues. They are different. They are various sections. That one will be settled. I don't know the section, the fraction that you have. It's not my concern. All I know is ISPON. We will get there together, and we can only liberate ourselves from these menace, unless there will be total dependency that everything we even do will become trash. Please let us promote our own. Thank you very much, Mr. Christopher. We are together on this. We will get there. We will get there. We are waiting for ISPON to settle their matter this year. If it doesn't happen, I'm staying this life. If it doesn't happen, we'll look for the next step to take to ensure that we young professionals get one ISPON. We must have that one ISPON. Enough of the fight. It's affecting the young professionals. It's affecting the country at large. Nigeria is the giant of Africa, and it's definitely affecting Africa at large. Because what we do, every other country in Africa will emulate it. And we don't do it right, no other country will do it right. So definitely we are an example, and we need to lead by good example. We will get there by God's grace. Thank you very much, everyone. I think there's no question. If you have any question, please let us ask. Any question, please let us ask. Sometimes people will ask me, why did I join this body? Why am I not in this body? Why did I join ISPON and the NISFT? NISFT is Nigerian Institute of Safety Engineers. Why would I join what is Nigeria? It's telling me that for me to become for me to be able to japa, for me to be able to become more king, and you can't join this body. Yes, you can join if you want to join, but it shouldn't be a criteria for me to grow in the profession when I have our own body that we can actually grow with. Let's support our own. It's only together that we can only get better. We can only get better when we are together. That is the spirit. That is the spirit. If there's a meeting by ISPON, you to come out, join the meeting, talk, bring your own. I'm also guilty of this. I already joined ISPON meeting, and because it's on Fridays. But if you are ready to liberate, let's join all the meetings, whether it's this fashion or that fashion. Join and talk. Let us talk. Don't be scared. Nobody will pursue you. Nobody will kill you. This is live. I don't know who is here or who is you, and I'm saying it loud. The elders should help us. Our elders, those are neutral. They've tried their best to solve this issue. But those that are taking side, that are the elders that are causing this menace, they should come together and solve it. Unless we, the young professionals, we ensure that it is being solved. And it should not become these young guys, they are very rude. This young generation, they are rude. These ones that are not rude, why are they not solve the problem? Why are they continue fighting and causing differences? You see this faction, we send the memo, we send a flyer. Please disregard this particular conference. Thing. Go and block these people. Go and report their website. They are not fighting publicly. When we continue with this, and these are being owned by our elders should come together and save this before we the young ones come up. It should not be like if that these young guys are rude, because we've tried our best. We've waited. I did my ISPON certificate, level 3 and GHS. I did it in 2015, and when I did it then, the fight has been on then. The fight has already been on from 2015 till now, 2023. That is 8 years. Why? Why? Is it because of is it a reflection of because of ISPON or because of personal interest? Let's ask ourselves that question. If there's nothing to be benefited and they are not gaining anything, who will hold on to that kind of a thing for years? Why? If it's for the sake of ISPON and for the sake of the professionals, if it's for the sake of unity, for the sake of ISPON and the professionals, it won't take this long. But I think there are personal interests. Please, God just said that I will talk about this thing today because we have been waiting. We are waiting and we are consulting quietly, meeting with key stakeholders. Sir, if this does not settle this year, we are taking a step. And if anyone knows anyone that knows anyone, I tell them that Wali said this. I know that we are nothing in the hand of anybody, but I believe that unity, the power of unity is stronger than any other force. The power of unity. If you all come together and say that enough of what this ISPON is doing, all of us, we are coming together to stop this, it will stop. But all of us are not ready. If you are ready, it will stop. I tell you, if you are ready, it will stop. If you are ready, if we are all ready, it will stop. It is time, and the time is now. So thank you, everyone. Thank you so much for your time. And I think I will end it there. I don't want to say much again. I think I've said enough. Thank you, Mr. Engineer Good Luck. I appreciate you so much. These are people that keep us motivated. They are always there to listen to our rubbish. Let me stop my live, the YouTube live. Where will I stop this live?
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. The training was
all right. Thank you,
awesome.
sir. My guy, Mr. Adefela,
It was
Mr. Lade,
impactful.
thank you.
Thank you
Yes,
very
they are always
much.
here. Mr. Wilson, always here.
Yes,
Mr.
you know, in every,
Mr. Bakari.
in every,
Okay,
in
my
every
guy, I'm
nonsense,
listening, sir.